everybody, my name's Cody Dedon and I'm the host of this tutorial series. I competed in NCFCA for 5 years, and in 2014 I was blessed to win the first ever NCFCA short film contest. I've been gaining hands-on experience working in the film industry, working with people like the producers of God's Not Dead to actors like Chris Pratt and Denzel Washington, and now I own my own film production company called Flashbang Productions, and we offer a wide range of video production services. If you're interested in taking advantage of those, you can hit us up at the email address that's on the screen right now. And in the meantime, I hope that you enjoy this tutorial series and learn a little bit about filmmaking. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Is that light really necessary to work on your computer?
No, it's important to me. I need a light shining directly in my eyes at all times.
We're wasting time. You still have to film my entire tutorial.
No, I don't. We've already filmed like a ton of it. It's pretty much done. You just haven't said very much there, which is kind of weird.
What are you talking about? Like, I'm not even wearing any makeup.
I know, which is why it's weird, because it's like a makeup tutorial. I thought you would talk about makeup.
If you were filming, there would be a little red light. It's blinking. It's blinking! That's the power of makeup. Quite an improvement, right? Makeup can make the world of difference in your actors' and actresses' appearances. And that is why I'll be teaching you all about on-set makeup. How to put together a basic makeup kit with all of the essentials you need. I'll be teaching you how to buy products that perfectly match your skin tone and skin type. And finally, I'll be teaching you how to apply those products to your actors' and actresses' faces. So let's head over to my studio. Welcome to my studio. It's a bathroom. Let's begin. Or not. Before you even begin to put makeup on your actors, there are 2 things you must make sure that they've done. One is brush their teeth, for obvious reasons. And 2, you need to make sure that they've recently washed their face, because you don't want any excess oil or grime on their skin. With that in mind, let's begin. The first thing that you want to apply is a primer. This just helps prepare your skin for makeup and make sure that the makeup doesn't dry out your skin. I have purchased here In Transit Camera Close-Up by This Works. It's a little bit on the pricey side, so if you're looking for a cheaper option, almost any big makeup brand has a primer. You can go to any drugstore or Walmart and look at any big brands such as Rimmel, NYC, Revlon, Maybelline. They all carry a primer. One important thing to make sure about your primer is that it doesn't have sparkles in it. As crazy as that sounds, this has happened to me before, and when I put it on my face, I looked like somebody had sprinkled pixie dust all over me. Now, to apply primer, I just use my fingers. You could use a sponge or a brush, but that's kind of complicating things, so I just squirt it on my fingers and rub it around my face. Once your primer is all worked into your skin, you want to give it a few seconds to dry, just until it doesn't feel wet anymore. And then you want to move on to concealer. Concealer does exactly what the name says it does. It conceals. It conceals blemishes and pores. When it comes to concealer, there are 2 main types. There's stick concealer, which covers more heavy blemishes, and then there's liquid concealer, which covers lighter blemishes. But how do you pick the right color concealer? Well, the general rule is that concealer shouldn't be more than 1 or 2 shades lighter than your skin tone. I usually start with my stick concealer, just placing it on the spots that I think are going to be harder to cover up. You can also apply concealer around your nose and on your forehead and on your chin, because that's where, well, at least on me, that's where my pores tend to be most visible, so I really want to cover them up. Now, if you're looking to purchase a good stick concealer, I highly recommend Hide the Blemish Concealer by Rimmel London. Although MAC also has a good concealer, it's a little more pricey, but those are two brands that I know are really good. Now, to rub in this concealer, I like to use my fingers once again. You can use a brush or a sponge, but I find that my fingers work most effectively. Now, sometimes if blemishes are a little harder to cover, I like to also use a little bit of liquid as well. Right here I have Fit Me Concealer by Maybelline, which is absolutely one of my favorite concealers. I highly recommend it, although almost every brand carries a concealer. So I'm just going to place this on my cheeks because they get a little red. And that's it for concealer. Next, you want to apply foundation. Foundation just makes sure that your whole face is the same color. There's actually a lot of conflict on the subject of how to pick a foundation that matches your skin color. Some say that you should match it to your wrist, while others say that you should match it to your neck or face. I personally like to match it to my neck because my neck tends to be slightly darker than my face because I usually put sunscreen on my face but not on my neck. I, along with most teenagers, have oily skin, and that's something important to consider when choosing a foundation, whether you have rather dry skin or oily skin. Since I have oily skin, I purchase foundations that say matte, M-A-T-T-E. This just means that it's not going to make my face look more oily, which is something that you really want to avoid. Now, if you did have really dry skin, you'd want to purchase foundation that was dewy. This foundation is it's especially made for people with dry skin. I personally have never used it on myself, but that's what it's made for. When applying foundations, you have a couple options. You can either apply it with a sponge or a brush. Now, I personally prefer a sponge, but let's talk about brushes for a minute. If you're looking to buy a brush specifically for applying foundation, I recommend purchasing what is called in the makeup world a kabuki brush. I'm sorry, I can't say that word without laughing. Two examples I have here of good brushes to put on foundation. I have an e.l.f. brush. e.l.f. is a really good brand of brush. It's very cheap, but still has pretty good quality. If you want a more expensive brush that has better quality than e.l.f., I recommend the brand Real Techniques. My personal favorite when it comes to foundation is Fit Me Matte Poreless by Maybelline. Now, when putting on my foundation, I like to dump a little bit on the back of my hand so I can use the back of my hand as a palette, and it makes it a lot easier to pick up your foundation. A lot of people mess up when it comes to applying makeup with a sponge. They just take their dry sponge, dip it in their foundation, and dab it all over their face. To get the best looking foundation, you want to take your sponge, turn on warm water. As you can see, my sponge has almost doubled in size. So I'm going to take my damp sponge, dip it in my foundation, and start to dab it on my face. Now, when putting on foundation, you don't want to put too much directly under your eyes. That's where it tends to gunk up and collect in the creases under your eyes. You also want to make sure to blend a little bit down into your neck so you don't just have a line where your foundation just stops. Now I'm going to take my liquid concealer once again and conceal under my eyes. I'm also going to put a little bit on my forehead to highlight that area. I'm going to put some down my nose and on my chin as well. This just magnifies what would naturally be highlighted on your face. For sanitary reasons, I recommend having different brushes and sponges for each of your actors. I have these really cheap wedge sponges. I buy them 4 for $1 at Dollar General. Now that we put on foundation, you want to top it off with some kind of powder. There are 2 different types of powder. There's pigmented powder, which actually has a color to it, and then there's translucent powder. I am going to apply Maybelline Fit Me. It is a pigmented powder. So this one actually comes with a little applicator. So I'm just gonna rub it in the powder and then put it on. Now for the girls, if they're not going to be wearing eyeshadow, you want to put powder on your eyelids to make sure that they don't look shiny. Not looking shiny is one of the most important things because shiny actors simply don't look good on film. Throughout a day of filming, your makeup can go through a lot of wear and tear. That is why, after you've put on your powder, you want to spray your face with some sort of setting spray. This makes your makeup have a smooth finish look as well as extending your wear. So right here, I have L'Oreal Paris Infallible Pro Spray and Set. This spray is a little bit pricey, ranging anywhere up to $15 to $16, but it works really, really well and it lasts a really, really long time. So I'm going to take my spray and I'm going to shut my eyes really tight because you don't want to get in your eyes. And I'm going to put about 4 sprays on each corner of my face to make sure that my whole face gets covered. And I'm just going to fan my face to make sure it dries. Now since the makeup tends to get on my lips and it makes them look a little bit dry and unnaturally pale, I like to take a clear lip balm. I have just a simple Kiss My Face lip balm. You want to make sure it doesn't have any sparkles. This is just to moisturize your lips and make them look natural on camera. Even though these are my natural lips, they don't really look the best on camera. And there you have it. A basic makeover that can be used for both guys and girls who are going to be acting for the camera. And that's important, guys. Even though you are a guy, you still need to wear makeup because almost nobody looks good on film with just their natural skin. I think I have pretty clear skin, but you saw how terrible I looked on camera before. You can buy basic versions of everything I used in this video for about $40. Now, if that seems a little high for your budget, I strongly recommend at least buying concealer, foundation, and some powder, and something to put it on with. On real movie sets, before each take, the first assistant director will yell out, "Last looks." This is cue for the makeup artist to come and check the actor's makeup to make sure that nothing crazy has happened. this is something that you want to do. The main thing to make sure is that your actors don't look shiny. That is why when I'm on a set, I bring a soft brush and translucent powder. It's good to touch up the actors before each shot. You can also buy something called oil absorbing wipes. They do exactly what the name implies. They absorb oil, which is what makes your face look shiny. So I also recommend purchasing some of those. Everybody's hair is so different, so I don't want to go too in depth about doing hair on set of films, but I would like to give you a few tips that I've learned. The first is that you should make sure your actors come with dry hair that's ready to be styled, so you don't have to, one, bring a blow dryer to dry their hair or wait for it to dry on its own. You can immediately begin styling or doing their hair however you want. Just like your skin, you also don't want your hair to look greasy. That's why I highly recommend purchasing dry shampoo. You spray it in your hair and it simply soaks up all the excess oil in your hair, making it look like you just washed it. And my final tip to you is if you do use hairspray, don't be trigger happy. You can see hairspray if you use too much, and also you don't necessarily want your actor or actress's hair to look completely perfect because that looks simply unnatural. I hope that this video has been helpful and that you'll be able to utilize all of the tips and techniques that I've showed you today.